gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time here. I think you'll have a great time here.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Quick Question with Soren and Daniel, the show where two best friends and comedy writers ask each other questions and give each other answers. Usually. We're also not doing that again today. We're going to play another game of Dangerous Bangers. I'm one of your hosts, Soren Bowie. I'm a writer for American Dad. I'm out on the strike lines every single day. And I don't know, like a third thing I think I had at one point, and now I've lost it. Well, maybe Daniel has something. Daniel is the other half of this podcast. He's a writer for Last Week Tonight, and he wrote a book called How to Fight Presidents. It's a New York Times bestseller. And now what the fuck's he going to say? Because I did all his shit.
Yeah, you did all my shit, but there's one crucial thing that you neglected to say in your intro, which is your name, Soren Bowie. You started listing your credits, then you got to third thing, and you never closed the loop of saying the name of the guy that you are.
That's not specific to this, by the way. I've now met, because I'm doing a lot of meeting of people on the strike lines, and they'll introduce themselves. And I'm like, hey, it's really nice to meet you. And then they'll be like, what's your name? Like, oh yeah, I also have one of those. I am Soren. They call me Soren.
You know what I liked about the strikes that we do is you can have a name tag if you want. And I think we should have them all the time.
Oh.
I think it would be so great because you ran into a very famous showrunner that you've met several times, and who owes me $500, but I will not name him here. And you said hello to him, you said his name, and you shook his hand, and he said, hello, Soren, good to see you again. And it's possible that he remembered you because you see each other every day on the lines, but it's possible he saw your name tag. It doesn't matter if that's how he knows your name. It still feels good.
It's such a nice reminder of the people around you because there's no more... I always feel this panic when I meet somebody again. And I'm like, hey, I'm pretty sure Ben. I think that's what it is, but I don't actually know. And if there's just some confirmation right there on their chest, that would really be nice.
Yeah.
I will say my name tags, when I use them at the strike, they don't take.
Yeah.
I sweat them off.
Sure.
And then I have this patch of sweat, just a square patch of sweat on my shirt.
I think if you did run into someone on the lines and you called them Ben, you'd have a pretty good... I met 3 Bens on the lines.
Yeah, we already know a Ben on the side of the lines. So that's...
So, statistically, if you're like, hey, Ben, and oh, no, my name's Mark, you'd be like, well, it was almost Ben.
That's close, though, right?
Yeah, I'm more in the ballpark than other people.
You remind me of the other Bens that you've surely met by now.
Yeah.
It would be really, really nice to just have name tags all the time. And you're absolutely right. I wouldn't care. If somebody would look to me and they're like, of course, Soren, how are you? I would be like... That feels really nice.
Yeah,
it feels good to have you remember who I am. I don't think that there's any way for me to kickstart this. I don't think there's a way for me to just start doing it without it being weird.
I don't think people want to wear name tags, probably. Even though I liked it, my first job ever working at the concession stand of a movie theater, you wear name tags. And they're like, hey, Dan, I would like popcorn and soda, please. And there's he called me Dan. That's nice. It feels good to have my name said instead of Chief or Buddy or Sport.
Yes. Can I tell you a quick story?
No.
A quick question. Can I tell you a quick story? I used to work at a golf course where I was a bellboy.
Yeah.
There were cabins all around the golf course, but the only way that they were accessible was through golf carts. So the people would park their cars, we'd load all their luggage onto their golf cart and then drive them up to the cabin and then teach them how to make a fire or whatever. Anything that they needed, the bellboys would come do it, including shooing...
What fucking kind of golf course was this?
Shooing bears out of hot tubs, by the way. It was... it's in
hey,
Colorado.
You here to golf? Here's how you start a fire. It's going to be a long day out on this frozen golf course.
And I wore a name tag, but it was a magnetic name tag. So it means that on one side, inside the shirt, I'd put one piece and then on the outside. And I was very excited about that as one of my early jobs where somebody had made a thing for me. Which was real. It felt really good. It was embossed and everything. And I would also drive the company vehicle around because we'd have to go to the airport and get people or whatever, or get lunches for. We were much more than just bellboys. We would do all kinds of personal assistant shit. And I was at this place Peppino's, shout out Peppino's in the Roaring Fork Valley. It's the best pizza place in the world. And
There's no way that's true.
in the world. Fuck you, New York. And these girls had pulled up next to me, and they were sort of like giggling in their car, and I was 19 probably, and they're like, "What's your name?" And I was like, I was just like this moment of inspiration where I was like, I'm just going to take it off. I know I have more of these. I'm going to take it off and just throw it to their car, and it's going to stick to their car. And then they have it. And I was like, this is going to fucking rule. And so I did it. It banged off their window and fell on the ground. So they don't know what it was. All they know is that this man in this car next to them they said, "What's your name?" And he threw something hard at him.
Right. I think even if that went to plan, it still would have confused them, because most people don't think you're going to have a magnet of your name to stick to their car. So if I said, "What's your name?" and someone threw something and it made a sound as it hit my car,
You'd be like, what the fuck?
not in a million years would I be like, "Oh, roll down the window. We're going to get his name," because it's probably a magnet with his name on it.
It was going to go so cool. And it was like one good movement. Had I shattered that window, I think it could have gone even better.
Yeah.
Had I thrown it and it just shattered in on them.
So this is, true to your word, a lifelong problem of introducing yourself and telling people your name. This has been going on for a very long time.
In fact, I will credit that with being why I have a hard time remembering other people's names, because I get so flustered in the moment where we're meeting each other, where I've got a lot of other things that I'm trying to there's an order of business that I'm trying to get through, and these boxes I'm trying to check. Your name, remembering your name is so far down the list.
Man.
It's gone immediately. I haven't remembered a name since 2013.
I am so good at remembering names.
You are. You're really good at it.
And I have not figured out a way to make this work for me at all.
Oh, I disagree.
I haven't made a dime off this.
Well, okay, so you don't wet your beak on fucking remembering people's names, but you're really good at it, and socially, I think it's very helpful.
Yeah.
That you're very good at it. You're, and it's clear that you put the work in, and I think that people like that.
Yeah.
So you have a fan base. You have people who have followed you for a long time, and we would go to different Comic-Con type of events.
Yeah.
And like a year or 2 years after meeting somebody just at a table where they asked you to sign a book, they would come back and you'd be like, "Oh yeah, I know you," and you would say their name, and the look on their faces was just like it made their whole day. Like they could flying on that for a week because you were like, "I know you in the world," and what that means to people is, I don't think you can put a price on that, Dan.
I guess not. I just mean for my day to day. I can go to a convention and be like, "Terrence, yes, from Colorado. Good to see you again." And I remember your name, Terrence, and where you're from. I do not remember multiplication, like the order of operations.
Yeah, the things
gone.
you gave up. The things you gave up for these names. Yeah, that's fair. There's only there's finite room in there.
Yeah.
And I do, every time that I do hang out with you where you are meeting somebody who you've met before and know their name, I immediately feel bad because I did not put in any work.
Yeah.
Don't put any of the work in, and I'm bad at it, and I should.
I don't think it's a fine thing to do, because I don't think anyone is upset if you don't remember them or don't remember their name specifically.
Definitely been some instances.
So they're just happy if you do remember it.
They are yes,
Yeah.
You're right. There's nothing but upside.
Yeah.
That's true. All right, well, we should get into the show.
Yeah, so we play this game called Dangerous Bangers, where it was invented by Kieran Culkin. The rules are very simple. One of us brings a movie to the other one. It's a movie that, if you are bringing the movie, it's from your past. You love it so much. You have fond memories of it, but you haven't seen it in a while, and you're not sure if it holds up. The other person has never seen this movie. They're going to watch it in the present with fresh eyes, and they are going to either confirm your belief that the movie is a banger, or they're going to tell you it is not a banger, it's not good, doesn't hold up, whatever. Soren has brought the movie Vampire's Kiss, 1988 or 89,
88.
Nicolas Cage film. I had never seen it before. I, of course, saw memes. It's one of the most memed movies.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, which part? The A, B, C, D,
A, B, C,
E?
D is very memed. I'm a vampire,
Yes,
is very
okay.
memed. And just the visual of him, slick back hair with his eyes bulging out of his head,
okay.
has made its way around my internet for
You've seen
decades.
clips. Okay.
Yeah. before I get into the movie itself, what is your relationship to this movie?
Okay, this movie was seminal for me, and my brother introduced me to it. And my entire sense of humor is basically his. Growing up, he was 4 years older than I was, and it was just
Still is too.
Still is 4 years older. Yeah, we stuck with it.
Yeah. You caught up at one point, and then he
he jetted.
he just took off.
I will give credit where it's due that my sense of humor was always just trying to keep up with him. Like he was so funny and quick that I was just like trying to tread water, and like whatever he liked, I liked. And so this movie came to me when he was probably in high school and I was maybe in middle school. And this was like a movie that he loved and I didn't get it. And then as I got older, I watched it again. I think I was in college and I was like, oh, this is great. This is wonderful. And so that was in like 2001. It was the last time I watched this movie and really loved it then. And
It's an important time to watch the movie because it opens with shots of the Twin Towers. So the first thing I put in my notes is that you're confronted with a giant screen that says Nicolas Cage in, and the skyline of New York with the Twin Towers. And I'm like, check. I like that.
So in watching both these movies, Delirious and Vampire's Kiss, I'm struck by the fact that both of them open with these giant sprawling shots of the New York City, where you're like up in a helicopter checking everything out, and then also it's about the writing industry. Both of them, without even my memory of that even being the case, both these movies are deeply about the writing industry.
Right. And this is 88, which might as well be 90s, a decade of film I'm obsessed with which I am obsessed. And another hallmark of 90s movies to me is these very long opening sequences that don't really do anything. It's just like, we're going to show the credits, and we're going to take our time showing all the credits, and we're just going to show you New York City skyline. There's long...
I think there's a reason for this one.
Location shots in Groundhog Day, I think, too.
Oh, that's right.
There's just like when they were just printing money for movies in the 90s, and they're like, yeah, we have our script, and let's get a helicopter. Let's get a couple of helicopters to just sort of like go around Cincinnati. We might use it, we might not. Who cares? We're gonna just need something to play during this opening score.
So I rewatched Vampire's Kiss last night because I wanted to also be prepared for this because I had forgotten so much about it. I had like moments of it. It was like memes in my brain where I was like, I remembered specific moments, but like nothing was tying them together. And other than like, I remember the Nicolas Cage performance and I'm really liking it.
Yeah.
But I watched it again last night, and there's all that skyline stuff that they do at the beginning of this movie I think is intentional. I would love to see a copy of the script because the architecture that they're specifically choosing and how they highlight it, like a lot of time it's backlit, so it's like silhouette. It looks like all these high sky rises look like churches.
Yeah.
Everything has like some Christian iconography to it that they're taking, that they're picking out of New York.
Correct.
And I think that's important.
Everything looks like a cathedral in some way.
Yes.
There. For this movie is a very, I think you're right, very intentional. I can't wait to talk more about the behind the scenes of this movie. But first, let's get into what this movie is about. Nicolas Cage is Peter Lowe, who is the head of a literary agency. He might be an agent himself, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's a very successful agency. He is also a bit of a playboy raconteur kind of guy. You see him, he wears suits to work to do his job, where he's mean to one of the secretaries, Alva. And then at night, he goes out to clubs every night and tries to pick up women. Picks up a woman. It seems like he's pretty successful at picking up women. He meets a truly amazing woman his first night, who was just like such a delightful person. He woos her, brings her back to his home, and a bat flies into his apartment and freaks him out. So they leave and they go to her place. They spend the night together. He is also on the side of everything, seeing a therapist once a week to deal with his vague issues that seem from the opening, they stem from like him being a womanizer and not really finding a connection with someone.
He's trying to better himself.
Yeah, sure. Since he saw this bat, he tells his therapist, like, there's something about the bat that like aroused me, that got me super hard. And the therapist is like, oh, that's interesting. And the next night he goes out again and takes a woman home. It's very similar to the first time he takes a woman home, but this woman reveals herself to have vampire fangs, and she bites his neck, and he's like, stop it, stop it, stop it, until eventually he's like, actually, yes, do this. I like this.
Yeah.
And he starts behaving erratically in his life and in his job, and sees this woman who drinks his blood multiple times. He torments this secretary, Alva, that he works with. He wants her to find a contract, and it's like a needle in a haystack kind of situation where she has to just go through thousands and thousands of files, and he wants her to find it no matter what, and he is like emotionally abusive to her and physically abusive to her. She hides from him at home, takes a sick day, and he like tracks her down to her house and then brings her back to the office because he is so like crazy about finding this one file. And also, throughout this entire time, he believes he is turning into a vampire. He eats cockroaches. He does vampire stuff. He turns his couch over and sleeps underneath it like a coffin. He wears sunglasses because the sun is too great. He is really losing it at work as he is slowly becoming a vampire. He does a final bit of torment for Alva when she does find the file that he's been looking for. He chases her through the office. It's very late at night, and rips her clothes open and starts to try to bite her, and she like passes out from the shock. She also has a gun. It's important to know that she's threatened him with, like, if you hurt me, I'm going to shoot you. There's only blanks in the gun. Once he knocks her out and tries to assault her, he takes the gun and tries to shoot himself, not realizing that it's blanks. And then he's like, this is confirmation to him that he is a vampire because like bullets can't kill him. So now I'm just like a horrible vampire. I go and I stalk the night. He goes to a club. He fully murders a woman.
Yes.
Like bites her neck and
drinks her blood
and
till
drinks
she's
her
dead.
blood, and she dies. And then he wanders back home. Like he's clearly falling apart because he's insane. There's blood all over his mouth. He hasn't been eating the food that he's supposed to eat. He like keeps gagging because he's full of a stranger's blood. He hallucinates a conversation with his therapist where the therapist sets him up with another one of her clients that is supposed to be the perfect woman for him. And he is happy to have found love in his imagination. Meanwhile, Alva has told her brother, hey, my boss, the one who's been harassing me, I think he raped me.
Yeah.
When I woke up and my shirt was open.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty sure he raped me. So her brother tracks Nicolas Cage down to, we don't know exactly. He has a tire iron.
Beat him with a tire iron, I
maybe
think.
he's just going to beat him up.
Yeah.
And then when he finds Nicolas Cage in his house, Nicolas Cage has this giant like
Piece of
steak, like a huge piece of wood that is going to be a steak that he's been asking people to like, kill me, kill me, kill me. I'm a vampire, kill me. And no one's doing it. And so as soon as the brother shows up with his tire iron and Nicolas Cage is like, puts the steak on his own heart, the brother's just like, all right. And he shoves it down and he kills him and he dies. And that's
The end of the movie.
the end of the movie.
Yes. Good explanation of this movie. This is there's a lot of up front where Nicolas Cage he's essentially Patrick Bateman.
Yes.
This is like an American Psycho story that predates American Psycho, I think.
Which
even
was the
book.
biggest surprise to me. Like I've spent so much time on the internet and like mainlining pop culture and like all the work that we did for Cracked. You're just exposed to so many movies and shows that you haven't seen, and you need to have a passing familiarity with most of them to edit these articles in a convincing way whenever we're writing or editing articles that other people have written. So it's really rare for me to be completely surprised by what a movie is. And this is one of those cases because I, for my whole life, was like, that's a movie where Nicolas Cage is a vampire. And that was a shock to me that he is not a vampire in this movie. He is delusional. It's American Psycho. He imagines that he is a vampire and everything that would realistically follow that. Like him eating bugs is, I guess this is what a vampire would do. And he can't see his reflection even though we can.
Yeah.
Because he's just going crazy. And like when he doesn't have fangs that come in, he buys plastic fangs to wear to be a vampire.
And he at one point so it's never really clear this woman that actually bites him if she's real or not.
Yeah.
This is a woman that maybe he just met one night and then all of like the actual blood sucking and everything is just something that he made up himself. We don't actually know. He wears a Band-Aid on his neck. He definitely has a wound on his neck, but he also cut himself shaving. So we're never
Right.
really clear on whether the original event took place. He's definitely not turning into a vampire, but like he also has like only a passing understanding of what vampires are. So like he's
Yeah.
like, as things occur to him, that's when he's like affected by them. So like he's walking home with all these groceries and he walks past a church and there's like a neon cross and he's like, oh yeah, vampires hate crosses. Ah, and, like falls down. Or like he early on, like if he's leaving his apartment and he looks at himself in the mirror and goes and touches it and goes,
Yeah.
and then just leaves and he's fine.
Which is it's very funny because
He's
that's
trying it
like,
out.
That's not the vampire trope is you can't see your reflection. It's not that your reflection
The
burns
mirrors
you,
hurt
but
you.
he's got like a dim understanding. It's like something mirrors right. I'm on so much fucking coke.
And then he watches Nosferatu, which is like of all the vampire movies to watch, like that's the one he chooses. And then Nicolas Cage just does this brilliant job of like slowly inhabiting Nosferatu. Like he gets
Yeah.
very much more hunched.
Hand stuff,
Yeah,
creepy, weird hand
he's-
stuff.
He gets really weird and like, and this is like, I will, this is, whenever people are like, Nicolas Cage is a bad actor, I'm like, he's not. Go watch Raising Arizona. This is like one of the movies that I put in the bucket of like, he's great. He's leaving Las Vegas. Like this movie. These are the movies you should see. And I wanted to make sure that I could still recommend this movie as like a movie where he's really great. His performance is fucking awesome.
He
in
is
this.
before he gets the vampire affectation, he is still making such strange choices. He is not a normal human being for 1 second of this movie.
Yeah.
As soon as it starts, I'm trying to figure out what the fuck voice he's doing.
He's doing a
He has
weird
some
accent.
kind of like, and I like doing impressions of people. I can't do what he's doing.
Yeah.
It doesn't like make any logical sense in my brain. I would like pause it and rewind it to try to repeat a sentence of his, but like nothing hangs together as one region specific voice. There's some Southern California in there.
Yeah.
And there's some mid-Atlantic. There's some like almost British adjacent stuff that he's doing. Like, I went home with a girl and I saw a bat. I'm like, what? Where could you be from?
I think it's the same thing where like he only has a passing understanding of everything.
Yeah.
And like he doesn't care to learn more. And so like when he's becoming a vampire, he's just guessing at it. And then also when he's just who he is, I think that he has like maybe at one point in his life heard mid-Atlantic and that was like rich people and was
Yeah.
like, I'll give it a shot without hearing it at all. I will just try it. And that became his accent. It's such a weird choice, but the movie is full of weird choices.
Yeah.
Did you watch it? This is an important question. Did you watch it with subtitles?
No.
Okay. Most movies now I watch with subtitles because my children are sleeping upstairs and I have to keep the volume down. And it's just the nature of movies that all the action is loud and the dialogue is soft. I'm watching it with subtitles and there's a lot of like, you're just ambient talking and stuff because there's clubs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And there are some very weird choices being made throughout the entire movie. Big swings. We're like, at one point, he's meeting a woman in a bar, and as we're panning over to them, this guy walks up to another woman. He's like, "Hey, my name is Meredith. What's yours?" And you're like, "Fucking what?"
There's a scene where he goes in and out of his apartment, and there are two mimes
Yeah.
doing a little
Practicing
a little scene together in full mime clothes, and we see the
In the
exact
middle of the night.
scene twice where he pretends to slap her and then she pretends to spit on him. We see that exact sequence play out twice as Nicolas Cage is going in and out of his apartment, and there's not a crowd watching them. They're just performing in front of his stoop, and there's no payoff to it whatsoever. I don't think it's thematically related at all. It's just weird. It's just another weird detail in this very weird movie.
There at one point when he's chasing Alva, who is the secretary that he is harassing,
Yeah.
he chases her into a women's room. and she's genuinely terrified and up against a wall, and he's like looking very insane. And there's another woman who's just finishing up in the bathroom, another secretary, I think, and she just goes, "What the fuck is going on here?" And then walks out.
I wrote that in my notes because that made me laugh so hard. He chases her into the restroom, and she's like, "If you hurt me, I'll shoot you. I have a gun." Yeah. And this old, like 65-year-old woman was like, "What the fuck is going on in here?" And then walks away.
Then walks out of frame. Comes like close to camera, doesn't spike it or anything, just walks right through and is like, "I'm done here." Yeah, so the movie is full of like these weird big choices, and I think that, and as I was watching it again, I was like, "Ah, shit, I think a lot of my sense of humor came from this movie, where it's like you just take these weird big swings and then you just move on from them."
He does such a weird, his physicality when he's talking to the therapist, because he becomes so fixated on this contract that he wants Alva to find. And he's talking to the therapist like, this is the ABC sequence.
Yes, it's the funniest moment of the movie.
There's two ridiculous parts of it where he's like, why can't you find it? Where is it? And she's like, it's people, maybe they just put it in the wrong file. And he's like, it's alphabetized. It's so simple. It's alphabetized. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. And she keeps like trying to jump in like, I got it. I understand. And he screams the entire alphabet. It's very fun watching it and thinking like, he's not going to do the whole thing, is he? Oh, he's going to keep going. This is great. The alphabet's long. He does every single bit of it. Yeah. And then the therapist goes, I see. You really know your alphabet, which was a funny line. And then his physicality after that is like, I have never misfiled a file one time. Not once. Not one time. Like, very distinct choices. Bonk, bonk, hands on hips, hands behind hips. Yeah. That is like really clearly Nicolas Cage knew, I'm going to do these poses in this order on these like very inhuman robotic beats. And like, why? Why did he do that? You're smiling. Why did he make any of the decisions that he made in this movie? And I know, because I became very obsessed with this movie immediately watching it, that I wanted to know everything about it. And he was so drawn to the script. He wanted it immediately. Then he dropped it when they switched directors. And then as soon as he found out that he could get back into it, he jumped at the chance and did it for much less than he ever gets paid for anything, because he was so drawn to this. And he must have been drawn to what he knew he wanted to do with this part, because it's like no director told him to do that voice or to do that physicality, and it can't be on the page. It's just Nicolas Cage who was like, I'm gonna really do something weird with this. I'm gonna do a voice, I'm gonna do a physicality, and I'm gonna, as like an acting experiment, see if I can actually get my eyes out of my fucking skull.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like, yeah, all the choices that he makes are very strange, and like it's like you've never seen a human move before.
Yeah.
That scene where he's talking to his therapist is the funniest thing in the movie, because he's mad about this file and he's trying to describe to her what the problem is at work. He's like, I sort of lost it at work today. Yeah. And he's like, when you file something, if you have a copy of every contract and you put it where it goes, then it should be there, right? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, yes, good. And she's like, unless somebody misfiled it. And he goes, what? Who misfiled it? Who misfiled? And he's like furious at her. And she's like, I'd have no way of knowing that. And he's like, who did it? Who misfiled it? And then, when he's at the end, he's like, I've never misfiled anything in my life. Not once. Never. And gets very petulant like a kid. It's like these big, very funny choices.
Yeah. A crucial thing about this file that he wants, so like the background of this file that dominates the whole movie, is one of their star clients has asked for a copy of his contract, his foreign royalties contract for a book that he wrote, because he wanted it framed, because it was the first foreign check that he got for his work. And so Nicolas Cage sends Alva on this wild goose chase to find this contract. We learn very early in the movie, like the client calls Nicolas Cage and was like, hey, I know I asked you for that contract, but no rush on that. It's not really important. I'm in the middle of moving. So if you get around to it, you get around to it. If not, whatever. I'll call you when I move. Hope everything's well. Like, very easygoing client. This is not an important thing. And he just ignores that and continues to harass Alva to make her get this contract that is not ultimately important. It's another strange decision.
He just tortures her. Just to torture her.
He just wants to torture her.
He is being... A thing that we kind of like glossed over is that Jennifer Beals is this woman who is the vampire. And
Rachel. Her name is Rachel.
Her name is Rachel. Yeah. And she is... she appears to him every once in a while. Like, she feeds on him every night, we seem to believe.
Yeah.
And so he's feeling he's in love with her, but he's also feeling very trapped. It's a Renfield situation where he's a slave to this woman and so like he's kind of like has some ideations of suicide stuff. Like he wants Alva to shoot him.
Yeah.
Like he wants to die. And he's also feels trapped by this woman he's in love with, but he's also being tortured by. And so all these things that he feels he wants to like put on somebody else, and he has just chosen this secretary as like, the way that I'm feeling tortured, this is how I will torture her.
Yeah.
And it's dark. Like it's a comedy, but it's a very, very dark comedy.
It's
even more than I
dark,
think American Psycho. Like American Psycho, at least he's not doing the stuff. In this, he murders a woman.
Yeah.
And it's also, we're laughing at somebody who's having a mental breakdown. Colleen watched some of this with me last night, and she was like, I don't think this is funny. And I was like, why? And she's like, because he's just having a mental health crisis, and he's devolving further and further into it, and we're laughing at it. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's valid.
I'm also not sure it's funny. And like, part of me is happy knowing what I knew going into it, because I got to be surprised, because I thought this was a funny thing about him being an actual vampire. I thought this was like Once Bitten or something like that, where I'm going to see Nicolas Cage do funny vampire stuff. I didn't know it was American Psycho. And I think I'd like to watch it again knowing that, because it is really dark and really sad, and like he goes crazy because of how lonely he is. He is like a lonely guy who can't find connection and can't find love. So the first thing he is saying to the therapist that opens the movie is just him on the couch being like, and then I brought this girl home and I wanted her, and then in the morning I let her sleep for a while I got dressed and I put my suit on. I didn't want to get back in bed with her. I didn't want her to stick around. And then she took the hint and she left. Like, she saw that I was dressed for work and it was time for her to go. And the therapist is like, but you wanted her last night. I'm like, yep, I did. Really badly. Yeah. And like, you see that he's in this strange cycle where he's going out every night and trying to pick up women and trying to find some kind of connection, and none of it's working. And he goes so crazy from his loneliness that, like, at the absolute peak of his delusion, in like his fantasy of things working out, it's him and his therapist looking like $1 million in his imagination and being like, you're not a good therapist, and you know what I've wanted this whole time that you haven't been able to figure out? It's love. I want real love, not fairy tale stuff. I want real love. And then he meets this fake woman that shares all of his interests. And that's the bookend of this movie, is I can't find connection, and then this delusion of finding connection. Yeah. And in between, he goes absolutely insane with loneliness and isolation.
Yes.
In this weird, oppressive 1980s version of New York City.
Right. It's
sad.
It's a very sad movie. Yeah. And he destroys some people's lives along the way.
Yeah.
One person who he literally kills, Alva, her brother. Like, her brother now has killed somebody. And like, he has to live with that, the emotional fallout of that. And then also Alva is like emotionally scarred because it's not clear if she was ever actually raped or not, but she suffered a mental and physical abuse from this guy. He hits her at one point and she has like a black and blue face. And like, I think that when I was trying to describe it to Colleen as like why it's okay, trying to justify this movie that I liked, I was like, he's a really bad guy. Like, they do a lot of work up front showing what a bad, terrible person this is. So when thinks he's becoming a vampire and it's destroying his life, that's funny. Like, I'm trying to like be like, that's what's good about it. Like, we're watching this person fall, and it's not necessarily crazy, but it is. It's crazy. He's just like, he's a person who's having a breakdown and becoming mentally unstable and slowly turning into somebody who's very dangerous. and he's doing such a funny job of it is the problem.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage. He's making these choices where he's constantly is calling Alva into his office, and then at one point you just hear him being we start on a scene where he's staring at a blank desk and he's going Alva, and then he runs out and jumps on a desk with both feet, wearing sunglasses this entire time, and goes, "There you are!" And these big wild things that he's doing, where I'm like, everything about this I'm loving.
Yeah. The movie is incredibly worth watching for Nicolas Cage's absurd performance. Because I'm with you. I think he is a very good actor. I think he's really strange and makes inexplicable choices, but I think he's really good and incredibly watchable. And for all of the big swing weird stuff that he does, you can then watch Adaptation, where he's playing two characters, and it's you can just be the best actor in the world if you want.
Yeah.
You don't always do it. You do weird Bad Lieutenant movies, and you do Vampire's Kiss, because you're just I think he's one of those actors that just likes doing it. He likes being on set. He likes making movies. The money is good, and he just wants to work all the time, every day. I think there was an interview with him when that Massive Talent movie came out with him and Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
Where he was talking about any other job, you don't ask a nurse or a truck driver why they're going to work. It's just their job. It's what they do. I'm an actor. I do movies. I just I keep doing movies. I'm always doing something. They don't all need to be Oscar bait. They don't all need to be blockbusters either. I'm just I don't know. I'm an actor. It's my job. I wake up and I do my acting job, which is a cool way to look at. This is bad to say during the strike. A frivolous, unimportant industry. So it's worth it to watch him and the choices he makes. I don't know that it's a banger.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I kept coming back to thinking what is this movie trying to be? Mm-hmm. Is it trying to be a comedy? Is it trying to be American Psycho? I couldn't really figure out what it was trying to be, and it's hard if I don't know what it's trying to be. I can't evaluate how successful it is at being that.
That's totally fair.
I want to watch it again right now. And as soon as I was done watching it, I was reading about it, and the screenwriter, his either girlfriend or wife at the time, was a producer, and he wrote this movie when they were supposed to be on vacation together, and there was a lot of friction in their vacation, and she was just I'm going back home. You just write a movie. Just do it. Just take this time and write. And he wrote this Vampire's Kiss movie very quickly. And she's this is our fucking relationship. This is us. Oh. This is a writer who is in love with a woman who is destroying him. And it's this toxic relationship. This is us right now.
Shit.
You wrote us. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, the only behind the scenes stuff I knew was that he chose to eat a real cockroach.
He did. Yeah. And that sucks. And the other thing was that before it was Nicolas Cage, it was almost Dennis Quaid. Wouldn't that have been bad?
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't have cared for that.
Yeah, he dropped out to do your movie, Inner Space.
Oh, yeah.
That's your movie, right?
That is my inner movie. I do love Inner Space, too. Have you seen Inner Space? Maybe we'll do the Dangerous Bangers.
Not in a long time.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is really tough to tell what this movie is trying to be.
Yeah.
And I'm maybe it's a date thing. Maybe I just don't understand because it's a different time. And maybe this was clear in a coke-fueled New York. Everyone's I get it.
Yeah.
But it's so confusing, and it's I might even put it in the same camp as something like Leaving Las Vegas. Leaving Las Vegas has some very funny moments, but ultimately is not a funny movie, and it's really sad. And this is a same thing where there's somebody doing a very funny performance in a deeply sad movie.
Yeah.
And it's I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to handle it.
Because everything Nicolas Cage does is funny. It's funny and watchable. Everything that happens with Alva is scary and sad and really tough. And this isn't, times were different when this movie was made, and so they don't realize how bad it is. The movie knows this is is a secretary, so it's a lower status position to his high status position. So he has so much power over her. She is also she's like immigrated to America, so there's some status stuff going on there, and the movie doesn't like gloss over it. They play it. This is scary. She is in a tough position. She needs this job where she's tortured every day. She has no help and no friends and is scared all the time. Even when she's not around Nicolas Cage, she is scared because she's a woman of color in New York in the past. So like the subway is scary to her. She has a gun, not for him, because she lives in New York and it's the 80s.
Yeah.
And the movie knows all these things. And it's just like, this is a version of this movie centered around her is tragedy, full stop. If you don't get that her boss thinks he's turning into a vampire and she's just like trying to keep her head down and go to work and then is tortured by this guy who assaults her and then her brother has to murder him.
Yeah.
That is a very sad, very tough story.
Yes. Yeah. And you're not getting away from that because that's, I think, a through line throughout the entire thing. I mean, the fun stuff is him trying to turn into a vampire. Trying to. Like, wanting to. But man, and like his relationship with the woman who turns him into a vampire, with Rachel, is also really sad. It's like he really likes her at first, and then she only comes to him at night. She ruins all of his other relationships, and she just feeds on him over and over. And then at the end, like, wants nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
And is like, once she's turned him fully into a vampire, where he's like, I'm like you now. I'm like you. She's like, you'll never be like me.
Yeah.
And it's just this dude, this lonely guy who will never have a connection his entire life.
And there is, I mentioned her briefly, but the first woman we see him going home with is this woman, Jackie, that he meets at a club and brings her home. And then the bat comes in. He, I think, has a great night with her and then has like a follow-up date with her at a museum. And he thinks turning into a vampire at this point. So he ditches her in the middle of their museum date. Yeah. And she leaves a message on his machine. It's like, you can't do that to a person. That was fucking awful. You're a piece of shit. Leave me alone. Don't call me again. And in the throes of madness, he reaches out to her again. Like, I was really sick. I was going through a tough time. Give me another shot. Meet me at the club tonight. I do really like you. She's like, all right, I'll give you another shot. She goes to the club, and he never shows up because he imagines his vampire woman wants him back. So he ditches this girl twice now, and she just like leaves him a note, says like, stay out of my life, leave me alone forever. And we never see her again. She is so sad. She is like really broken up to lose this guy, and she is just delightful. I mean, they meet and they're like drunk and probably on coke because it's the 80s in New York. But she is such a good sport. When the bat comes in, she's like laughing and playful. Like the I couldn't get enough of this woman in the first 20 minutes of this movie, and I was like, I hope she sticks around because what a treat she is.
It's just occurring to me now that like I think that he starts to have like a genuine connection with her. Yeah. And like that's terrifying. And so like he invents this entire vampire thing to not have to deal with her and like to get her out of his life. And like what a big swing that is. Yeah. But yeah, I realized also that in the same way that Delirious like spoke to your sketch writing sensibilities and like maybe even influenced them, I think this did for me as well. Maybe not in a super healthy way, where like it's such a slow burn. The movie is so slow in the same way that Delirious is slow. Where like you're like, you got a lot of these exterior shots where you're just hanging around for no reason, and then your character wanders through. Yeah. But him becoming a vampire is so slow. Like the process takes a long time.
It takes a long time for you to even realize he's not actually becoming a vampire. Yeah. Like the movie doesn't tip its hand.
It's not helping you. It's not holding your hand at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
there's enough ambiguity that for a while I did think like, okay, he's gonna like any minute now he'll be a full blown vampire, because I have not been given a reason to believe that vampires aren't real in this universe.
Yes. And so it's this slow burn, and I think I really like slow burns. It's like when I would write sketches, like I was always getting in trouble at Cracked because it was just like, why is this taking so long? Like, why is the joke taking so long? I'm like, because it's more worth it if you stick with it for a while. I did a sketch, I wrote a sketch about a guy opening just like a retail shop, and like he's very excited about it, and he's doing the commercial for it. And it's a low budget local commercial. But he's also like, one of the details that he's like really hung up on is like, we don't have any mannequins in the store. And like throughout the commercial, it's just more and more clear, like he's terrified of mannequins, like mannequins coming to life, and like not really clear like what they're going to do to him, but like just terrified of mannequins being real.
Yeah.
And it takes forever. And the
Yeah.
sketch was a colossal failure. But when I wrote it, I was like, this is it. This is really good.
This is my vampire's kiss.
But yeah.
Yeah.
So look for that. I don't even know how you'd find it now.
No, I
mannequins.
have
Type in
absolutely no
mannequins,
idea.
but spelt like I would. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, those are my final thoughts. Great movie that I will watch again, and I encourage people to watch. I don't know that it's a banger though.
Yeah.
If that's a line that's okay for me to walk.
I watched it again last night, and after talking to Colleen about it, I was like, it's not a banger.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's probably pretty bad. Like she just got in my head where I was
Yeah.
like, I was trying to defend this thing and then realizing I didn't even have a leg to stand on, which is you're just watching a guy go crazy.
Yeah.
And it's pretty sad. And I was thinking, this is a great, funny movie.
Well, that about does it for this episode of Quick Question: Dangerous Bangers. You can find the show on YouTube. If you've just been listening to this, you have no idea that we've been talking together in a room this whole time. A room, I should stop down to say. It's a great room, and I'm thrilled that Gabe found it. It's really cool. I like this location a lot. To go to the bathroom when we're filming this show, you have to go outside of this room to like outdoors, and then go up some stairs.
You're going to go past a sauna.
Yeah, and you're going to walk into what feels like definitely someone's home. It's like an apartment building, and you go in to this door that is like suspiciously ajar, and it smells like weed, and there's like stuff around. It's not an empty apartment. There's like pants draped over the couch, and our wonderful producer, editor, director, engineer Gabe is just like, yeah, you just have to go in and like walk in that door and then go into the bathroom and use it. And I promise there's no one in there, but it like super feels like there's people in there. Like any minute, it is indistinguishable from breaking into someone's home and peeing in their toilet. It feels the same. And my body is like, we're not supposed to be doing this.
Yeah.
I don't care what Gabe said. It feels like we're breaking in.
Yeah, it definitely feels like someone is living there at that moment. Like
Yeah.
someone is there.
Yeah. And that if you're peeing, you could any minute now hear some, like, in my head, I thought while I was peeing yesterday, I'm going to hear a tea kettle going off. And that's very scary to me because that means that the person doesn't know I'm here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be a surprise for their morning tea. But so far, no one's been in there while we've been going to the bathroom and getting changed for the show. And
It's been good.
it's been good. Yeah, otherwise I like it here.
Not doing outros. That's it for the show. Thank you.
I've got a quick question for you, alright? I wanna hear your thoughts, I wanna know what's on your mind. I've got a quick question for you, alright? The answer's not important, I'm just glad that we could talk tonight. So what's your favorite? How did you get? When will I be remembered? Was it out there? Where did all the guys know? Oh, forget it. Soren Bowie, Daniel O'Brien. Two best friends and comedy writers. If there's an answer, they're gonna find it. I think you'll have a great time, yeah. I think you'll have a great time, yeah.